Listen up or run for cover. Dropping knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. The real Brad Lee is dropping
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, do I got a real treat for you. You may or may not have heard of this feller, but if you haven't, it's probably because you're living under a rock. Coincidentally, this podcast, Jordan, is ultimately where we just shoot the shit, so there's no subject necessarily. We're just going to shoot the shit, but ultimately, the Bomb Squad, which are my listeners, they pick up nuggets like, you know, shit that you did. So I might drill into girlfriends or freaking, you know, obviously sales advice because you're Jordan motherfucking Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street. Welcome,
the Wolf
Jordan.
is here in the house.
The Wolf. And folks, if you guys don't listen to his podcast, I highly suggest you do. He gets on all the big names because he's fucking Leonardo DiCaprio's buddy. And, you know, he gets all the big names and he's just literally doing the same thing I am, but with Wolfden. He's out there fucking sharing knowledge like you wouldn't believe. If you subscribe to his podcast, you're going to pick up sales knowledge. You're going to pick up celebrity industry insider knowledge. And you're going to get
Wolf's Den.
The Wolf's Den.
The Wolf.
What did I say?
I think you said the Wolf's Den. I'm just repeating it to read. They say you have to see something 7 times, so hear it 7 times till you buy. So we're at number 2 now. We got 5 to go.
The Wolf Den. Go find him on the Wolf Den podcast, man. But I appreciate you swinging through. You're in Vegas for what?
I'm in Vegas here for a few reasons. I see some clients. Also, I'm doing some stuff branding wise in the CBD space. And I'm also here because a very close friend of mine manages the band Aerosmith. So I'm going to go to see Aerosmith tonight. I'm going to meet Steven Tyler, who I'm a huge fan of. So it's going to be an awesome night.
Yeah, sounds like.
And I want you to come to Aerosmith if you could make your way there tonight. I got an extra couple of tickets. You could bring your wife or your puppy dog, whatever you want, buddy. You know, as long as you're there, it's cool.
Dude, you know I'm not passing up hanging out with the old Wolf of fucking Wall Street. So here's what I have. Here's what I have a question for you. So earlier, we were talking a little bit about, you know, podcast downloads. Now, when if someone's out there listening, wanting to build a podcast, what would you suggest they do? Because again, they're not all Wolf of Wall Street.
Sure.
And folks, again, I don't want to act like everybody knows, but I'm pretty sure everybody's heard of the fucking movie Wolf of Wall Street. A lot of people don't know that it's actually Jordan Belfort that it's about. Like, that's a real fucking story based on a real fucking happenings, correct?
Correct.
Now, in that movie, like, you're doing coke off hookers' asses and your wife's ass, and like, dude, you were just living. I like to say living. You had your own helicopter. You were taking Quaaludes. You had Lamborghinis. You were fucking living like every person on earth wants to.
Let's go back to the cocaine on the ass part again, because I was really living. But I'll tell you an interesting thing about the cocaine on the ass. It's kind of a strange thing, you'd think, but whenever I meet a really, really rich guy, meaning someone over $1 billion, inevitably, the vast majority of them will say to me, so let me just get this straight. Did you actually blow coke in a hooker's ass? They want to understand that process. Not that they've done it or are doing coke. I'm sure they're not. Maybe they are. Who knows? Who cares? But they always want to know that question. They're obsessed with that idea that, because it's, by the way, it's not an easy thing to do. It takes a little bit of work and a little bit of skill set involved there, because the sphincter creates like a vacuum-like seal. So if you just try to drop, like, if you imagine picking a big pen or something, so it's got some little pressure. So you stick that in the ass like a thermometer, and then you drop the coke in. If you just drop it, it's not going in. You gotta give it a puff, like a glaucoma test. That the puff of air that comes out, it's gotta be like that. Yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
And the reason you do that is because, from what I hear, your ass will absorb drugs faster than anything.
It's the thinnest mucosa lining that you have, and it's just like an instant crazy high. And you know, listen, again, I've never done it myself, of course, but I had a friend who told me that he had done it, and he said it was awesome.
Asking for a friend.
There you go.
But you were doing it to the girls. And then, you know, the outrageous
anything
part.
I did to a girl, I must have definitely done to myself too, because I'm an equal opportunity employer. I believe to always try something, and I believe, no, and there's a business lesson here, because I believe you always need to lead by example in all aspects of life. I never tell anybody in my company to do something I haven't do. The reason I'm so great with training salesmen is because I have sold myself to be an armchair general who sits in the back of the battlefield and dictates orders, I don't believe you can be a great leader like that. You got to do things that you tell people to do. They got to know that you'll do it better and work harder. I know you like that too. You're a salesman at heart. You started off as a salesman, right?
Yeah.
Which is why salespeople respect you. Without that, it's very difficult. So what I'm point this to everybody listening here, whatever you do, if you want to lead people, don't lead by just talking. Lead by example. You have to be able to do it yourself. Now, if it's something like coding and shit like that, yeah, then you bring in the best. I'm talking general, everyday stuff.
Do you believe that a CEO should be the best evangelist / salesperson in the company?
I think they should be, and obviously there are cases where that's not, because you have a situation where someone had a very specialized skill set, whether it be in high tech or biotech, okay? But typically what you will always see is if that person is not, they have surrounded themselves with someone else. For every Wozniak, there's a Jobs. You get it?
Yeah.
Now, in the case of like a Bill Gates, for example, if you don't think Bill Gates is like the greatest salesman out there, he was unbelievable, Bill Gates. People look at him like he was always a nerd. No, yeah, maybe he was an intelligent guy with glasses, but he was the greatest evangelist for his company. If you're not the evangelist for your company, you better have someone right by your side who is.
Yep. Dude, that's a major factor. So I want to get to straight line, because obviously,
Sure.
Straight line persuasion is ultimately your proprietary system of
Correct.
how you got millions to come in over the phone.
Correct.
And how to literally discuss and negotiate and keep people on a straight line.
Right. And it works it's a phone in person. I've used it for everything in every industry. It doesn't really, work any better in one place or the other, because it really cuts to the core of what makes people say yes, and that doesn't really differ much. The only difference over the phone is that body language collapses into tonality. Pretty much. When you're in person, there's things that you can do, and also tactics that you can take in terms of how do you actually walk in someone's door or an office. But it works, equally well on both spots.
Well, you're a big believer in scripts.
I am.
So, if like when I get telesales calls and I can tell it's a script, I hang up.
Of course. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Do you believe that? Because again, I do believe in scripts.
Yeah.
What I believe though is internalizing those scripts.
Yeah. So there's two parts to this, right? Number one, let's look at it this way. If at any moment in time you're using a script and you're reading from that script and it sounds like you're reading from a script, you have absolutely no shot of closing the sale. You're done. It's over, right? It's a waste of time. It's a fool's errand. Before I explain why that happens, I'll just give you a different perspective on this. People say, I don't want to use scripts because I'm going to sound wooden. I can't create the emotion and I can't connect with people. I'll say this. You ever see the movie Braveheart?
Yeah.
Of course, right? You know that scene where, Mel Gibson paints his face all blue and shit, right? He rides up on the horse and he, goes up and there's about 2,000 of his regulars up against 5,000 heavily armed British soldiers who just trained, right? And they're going to get slaughtered. And he comes up on his horse and he gives this incredibly rousing speech. He says, "Sons of Scotland, you stand here in the face of tyranny and oppression and blah, blah, blah." And he gets them so riled up that these 2,000 peasants with their frickin' pitchforks end up defeating the superior English army, right? Remember that scene?
Yeah,
amazing
absolutely.
scene, right? Everyone has seen that. It resonated, right? Let me ask you a question. You think Mel winged it?
No,
You think he made that shit up?
not at all.
He read it from a script.
Yeah.
Every single movie you've been to and cried or laughed or emotionally connected to, every series that you binge watched on Netflix or anywhere else, every single one of them was people using scripts. The key is they were written in a certain way and read in a certain way that actually did not sound like they were on a script or read from a script. The key is that the way we write scripts with a straight line, they're not traditional scripts. They're usable language patterns that actually are spoken in the vernacular, in the real word, that way you'd speak them, and then you master the art of reading a script without sounding like you're reading from a script. And as you say, internalization is one of those things, especially if you're in person. You're not, "Hi, mister," you're not holding up a script in front of you and you're in person, right? But even if I'm on the phone, I'll have something in front of me written down. I'm going back and forth to it. But the idea is that a script serves as the basis for taking someone from point A to point B. There you have free-forming around those words. But in the absence of having that script, the average salesperson who is not a world-class born closer, You're a born closer, Brad, right? You had this gift. You did, okay? I know you did. I'm a born closer. For every one person like us who's a born, there's 10 million who struggle with selling. I never had to search for those. They came to me automatically. I knew what to say, when to say it, how to say it.
Why do you think that is, though? To me, I think it's like, oh, that son of a bitch is clever, like quick, clever, sharp, quick. Like, what's the difference between like the born salesman that can find the words versus the ones that need to learn the words? And at the end of the road, is there any difference?
I think at the end of the road, there's no difference because with the straight line system, you can actually sell it in the same exact way as a natural born closer. And then it's about who works the hardest and who's most diligent, right? Why is someone born one way or another? Well, there's a combination of nature and nurture. It's $1 million question, nature and nurture. For me, I remember back as far as I can, I just had a gift to gab. And the first time I even knocked on a door to sell newspapers when I was a kid at 8 years old, and intuitively I knew when to smile, what to say. It all made sense to me. And, why that happened, who knows? Empathy, the ability to walk in someone else's shoes, watching my parents. My mother had really good tonality growing up. So maybe it was all these things combined. But I think that's far less important than, okay, fair enough. Well, maybe I'm not like that naturally. But if I can possess that level of skill, it will infinitely change my life in terms of my ability to make money, to connect with people, to get what I want, to win negotiations. So that's like a skill it's a required skill set. When you choose to take the course, it's up to you. It's a required course to learn how to communicate.
What I think people should do, colleges, is put this shit in colleges.
No doubt.
Schools.
No doubt.
Even high school graduation. People ask me all the time, hey, Brad, how do we succeed? How do we succeed? Now they're looking at me, high school dropout, did fairly well. Again, they don't realize that there's people like, especially, billionaires. There's people that would think I'm fucking struggling. There's people that if they reached my level of success, they'd fucking commit suicide.
Right.
Like they're like, well, that dude, like he's fucking, he ain't even broke 100 million yet, has he?
Right.
Like, what are you talking about?
It's all relative. But I think when you get to a certain point, here's the deal. I think everyone that's succeeding, except there's members of the Lucky Sperm Club. You're born into it, right?
Sure.
Then there's people who hit the lottery. But everyone else, the rest of us poor schnooks that have to actually go out there and work for a living and succeed, you see certain underlying themes in their life, certain ways of thinking, empowered thinking. The understanding that there are required skills, not just sales. There are things you have to know. There's going to be specialized skills required to do whatever you want to do in life. And then there's the mindset side of the equation. What's your mindset to get yourself to do the things that you have to do each day, even when you don't feel like doing them? Successful people have that ability. They can get themselves day in and day out to do what they got to do, even when they don't want to do it, because it's easy to do what you love to do, and not always so easy to do what you have to do. And what you have to do is what's required to become, let's just say, anything more than just like making paycheck to paycheck money. You want to really succeed, there's things you're going to have to do every single day. And one of them is skilling the fuck up. You got to skill up. Warren Buffett, let me give you an example. Warren Buffett is not the only one. It's also Ray Dalio says, but Warren Buffett has a famous speech online. He was with Bill Gates and he was asked a question. He was at a university, grad school, I think it was Chicago, and a woman had the mic. She goes, what can we do right now to, make ourselves, more valuable, to enhance our value in the workplace? And what Warren Buffett said was this. He goes, I'll tell you what, if it was me, there's one thing you could do, take a course in persuasion and communication. He goes, it is not taught in schools, as you said. He goes, and it will literally make you more valuable. In fact, look at yourself right now. Let's say you're $1 million asset. Like over the next 20 years, you'll earn $1 million, using a round number, right? He goes, I'll pay you right now $100,000 for 10% of your future earnings. Right now, go to the back, I'll give you $100,000. He goes, if, however, you go take a course in persuasion and become a closer, I'll double that. I'll pay you too, because I know you're worth double that. You double your own value. To go out into the workforce, to go out into life and not have the ability, forget about just closing. How about just getting your freaking point across to people? Telling a great story. How about being a storyteller that can hold the room, that someone that walks in that's not a dullard, someone that's perceived as being an expert in your field, someone worth listening to. Without that skill, it is so hard to live an empowered life. And that's why I think the straight line's so effective. Yeah, for salespeople, yeah, it works. But beyond just closing, It's life. It's just like, how do you just live life without being able to communicate? That's my opinion.
So let's say, for example, you were selling something. Let's take, fish.
Fish.
Say you're selling fish.
Got some fish?
Let's say you're selling fish and someone's not interested.
Oh, you're bad. Oh, you're bad.
I'm just wondering, like, what would you do? Because we
got
saw
some-
what you said to
I
Grant.
got some
And we
fish.
saw what Grant said, but he was, again, trying to debate. What is the answer? Because I was sitting there going, fuck, I wish Jordan asked me that, because guess what?
Right.
In my opinion, there is a time
Of
where
course
you cut
I-
bait. What do you think? What is your answer?
So, a couple things. It just so happens I did sell fish door to door. That was the best in the world. So, here's what I did. I'll tell you this is a great story. So, the first real sales job I had was selling meat and seafood door to door. We'd go actually knocking on people's doors and businesses.
Was it like the Louisiana Blue Ribbon whatever?
Yes. Out of these Toyota pickup trucks
yeah.
with the freeze. I was, listen. It's a
You did that?
Dude, I owned a company with 30 trucks on the road. My own company. It was the stupidest decision I made to start this company and the best lesson I ever learned at the same time. What happened was I went to dental school for one day because my mom told me since I was 2 years old, sitting in the high chair, spoon-feeding me applesauce, the only noble way to be wealthy, Jordan, you're going to be a doctor, a dentist. It's like fucking hypnosis, right? So when I graduated from college, if they asked me what I wanted to do for a living, what do you say? I want to be rich for a living. I didn't know what I wanted. So I said, well, my mother says doctors get rich and they're noble. So fuck it. I applied to medical school and dental school. No, I didn't go to medical school because it was too many more years. I'd kill myself. I want to be rich now. I said, well, dental school's 4 years. I'll still be Dr. Belfort. I had an uncle who was a dentist and really rich. So I said, fuck it. I applied. I got in, right? First day of dental school. Dean gets up. There's 105 of us in the audience. He stands up in front of the audience. He's got white hair, very dental looking, a white coat, right? He goes, welcome to the Baltimore College of Dental Surgery. You should be proud to be here. Dentistry is a wonderful profession. You go, give yourself a round of applause. Everyone's like, yeah, great. So I'm like, all right, so far so good. I'm looking around. Everything seems good. He goes, but let me say this. The golden age of dentistry is over. If you're here to make a lot of money, you're probably in the wrong place. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm in the wrong place. And I got up and I left. I dropped out the first day. Now, people fucking laugh at it. It's a true story. And I'm like, excuse me, you should have seen the looks on the other kids' faces. Like, what's fucking wrong with this guy, right? Now, at the time, I was in Maryland, right? I couldn't bear to break news to my mother. So, she's like, well, how's dental school? I'm like, oh, it's great, Mom. I'm like, fucking working out, right? Finally, after 3 months, I ran out of money because I always had money from selling ices and ice cream on the beach, but that ran out after a few months, right? I had to get real in my life. I answered a blind ad in the freaking paper. It said, action, make $1,000 a week, company vehicle. I'm like, oh, man, company vehicle, $1,000 a week is all the money in the world back then, right? 1985, right? So I go in, I walk in, it's a warehouse. Turns out the company vehicle is a freaking pickup truck. And I walk in, it's like 12 guys in jeans and sneakers, and it's like they're selling meat and seafood door to door. Not to restaurants, but to homes and, like, when I say to businesses, like, you'd be like in a mortgage company, a guy, hey, want any meat and seafood, right? Like, you just walk in cold, right? Yeah. So at the first day, I go out with this guy to train me. That was the system. You go out with a trainer. His nickname was the Penguin because he had like a stick up as he walked, waddled around with a stick up his butt, like that, right? The Penguin gets me in the truck, goes, listen, the key to sales is you got to be pumped up and positive. That's the key. I'm like, all right, it sounds good. He goes, and listen, whatever happens, no matter how many doors they get slammed in your face, you always got to end up and say, have a nice day. I'm like, why? He goes, because it makes you feel better about yourself. I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. So the Penguin drives up to like New Rochelle, upstate New York,
right? That was their training.
That was the training. We get out. He goes, just follow me. I'll show you what to do. He gets out of the first thing, knocks it off. Woman opens the door. He goes, hi, I'm Elliot. I deliver meat and fish. He's like, slam. He's like, have a nice day. He's like, that's fine. It happens, right? We go up to the next door. Woman opens the door. Hi, I'm Elliot. I deliver meat and fish to Clam. Anyway, listen, we were in what's called a cold neighborhood where no one wanted the food, basically. And door after fucking door got slammed in the Penguin's face. And every door that slammed, have a nice day. He waddles with his fucking stick up his butt, waddles to the next fucking door, right? Until somewhere around 12:30, he gets out of the truck, and I notice something strange. The stick falls out of his butt, his shoulders drop, and he like kind of lumbers up to the door, and he does what I call the non-closer's knock. It's like, he barely even knocks. He's hoping they don't answer, right? Woman opens up the door. He's a kind-looking woman. He looks, he goes, you wouldn't want any filet mignon, shrimp, or lobster tails, right? The last 35 people said no, so I'm just going to assume you're going to say no. Just get it out of the way now, right? Now, he didn't say those words. He didn't have to. the negativity was oozing out of his fucking body. He sounded so terrible. I was like, holy shit, does this guy know how? And I watched this happen. And I was like, wow, he lost his certainty, right? Anyway, the rest of the day, the guy didn't sell one box of meat. So I said, all right, well, whatever. It didn't go well. Maybe I'll give it a shot, right? So they give me the next day a truck. They gave me 35 boxes of meat, right? I go out there. I said, let me just try it myself. And I drive up like about an hour from New York City up to Harrison, New York, where I had a girlfriend that lived in the area there. I went from college, right? And the first door I knock on, it's like this giant fucking mansion, right? It's like the Wizard of Oz. I'm like, I'm here to see the wizard, like that fucking big, right? I knock on the door, right? The woman opens up the door, and I'll give you my pitch. Said, hey, my name's Joy. I deliver meat and seafood to some of your neighbors. I got a few extra boxes on the truck. I'll give you everything it cost. She's like, that's it. She's like, what do you got? I'm like, hold on, I'll be right back. I ran out to my truck. I come back in with a fucking stack, a mile high of fucking boxes, and I'm pretending like I'm in trouble. I'm a truck driver. I'm in trouble. I'm like 21 years old. I look probably 12 at the time. I look pretty young now. I look 12 at the time. I get on my knees. I open up the box. I start saying, this right here is filet mignon. Set the cut, cuts with a plastic fork. I had a little wrap for every single fucking thing. I went through all the things. She's like, listen, I really can't fit that in my freezer. I'm like, I'm a professional freezer packer. I said, do me a favor. I'll just give you everything. I'll give you a baker's dozen. Buy 12, I'll give you one free. She lived alone, this woman. She probably still has the fucking meat today because she bought 13 boxes. The first door I knocked on bought 13 boxes of meat from me. The first day, I sold all 35 boxes. I almost sold a woman the truck. She almost bought my fucking truck from me because she felt bad for me, right? When I went back to the warehouse that next day, they're like, where's the food? I'm like, I sold it. They're like, to your friends? I'm like, no, to strangers. They're like, no, it's impossible. The average guy was selling 4 boxes a day, 5 boxes a day, right? The first week I sold 250 boxes. And the simple way I did it was this. You walk up to a door. Hey, my name is Jordan. I deliver meat and seafood to some of your neighbors. I got a few extra boxes on the truck. I'll give you a great deal on anything. If they say not interested, do you know anybody who might be? No. Have a nice day. Next. And I had a system that was not about turning. This is what the dispute I had with Grant Cardone is that it's not about turning people. If someone doesn't want meat, I'm not going to debate for 35 fucking minutes about whether they should buy meat. I'm going to go to the next door. And all I want is someone to say, what do you got?
That's right.
Hold on, I'll be right back. And then I start. So to me, that's the difference between marketing and selling. When I'm knocking on a door and giving my pitch, that's pretty much marketing, but I'm marketing door to door. When the moment she says, what do you got? I'm like, hold on, I'll be right. That's when the selling begins. I run back. I get my fucking boxes. And Brad, I was so good at this, right? Like, I had all these I would just say all this funny shit. Like, it was just great. And my rule was that I had to sell at least 20 boxes a day. If I did not sell 20 boxes, I would knock on doors till my fucking knuckles were bleeding. That was my rule. I had one night, this great story, where I was in Westchester again, and I went all day. It was a terrible day. It was raining. I had a 0 day, right? It's like now 7:30 at night. I knock on some door, okay? Door opens. It's like, she's, oh, who are you? All right? I said, oh, I'm Joy. I deliver meat and seafood to some of your neighbors. She's like, all right, just go inside. I'll be right back. And she leaves. I'm sitting down, it's pouring outside. She comes back like an hour later. I'm sitting by myself in no one's there, in a mansion. Okay, now who are you? What do you got? I explained. She's like, all right, just load it into the fucking. Just load it into the fucking freezer. She buys out my whole fucking truck. This woman, all right, and every single 2 months, the whole truck, and that happened after literally 10 hours of knocking on doors with 0. And I came to realize that when you're out in the field, it literally has to be just literally, I am not stopping until my fucking knuckles are bleeding. If I'm calling on the phone, I am not stopping until literally I legally can't call at 901 and tell the marketing laws, you get it? Like, it's about the numbers. And I couldn't understand this whole thing about no interest being, it doesn't make sense. It's just not the truth about selling. The truth is, it's about hitting massive numbers of people, sifting out people who are potentially interested. And as salespeople, we don't turn non-buyers into buyers. I always say, as a salesperson, I don't take no and make it a yes. I take let me think about it and turn it into a yes. I take let me call you back and turn it into a yes. Let me check with my wife and turn that into a yes. I take people on the fence. No typically means no in sales, in sex, in stalking people. Like, it's freaking crazy. So to me, it's very, very simple. Now, of course, obviously, you have situations where if someone is not interested, very often you can quickly turn that around and you keep going. But if it's the second time they say, a lot of times no interest, not interested, it's like a knee-jerk reaction. Like you're knocking on doors, not interested. Well, so right now, who does your stuff right now, whatever you're selling? Oh, I do. Oh, and then you start talking to them. So I'm not, you understand?
But if you're selling me meat and I'm a vegan,
what the fuck are you, next?
You're going to try to convince them to buy it?
Yeah.
That's no interest. Really no interest.
Well, so, and in Grant's defense, by the way, see, he was poorly explaining something, okay? And I'm going to give him a little bit of a reprieve here because I'm sure he's not a terrible guy. Maybe he is, okay? He poorly explained a completely different point that has nothing to do with sales, okay? He was talking about brand awareness. And for instance, I had a guy on my podcast.
It's better to be aware of you and have no interest.
It has nothing to do with the conversation. It was argumentative what he was doing. It was the wrong time and place to talk about a completely different, unrelated concept.
Yep.
The concept he was talking about was, for instance, Brett Ratner, friend of mine, famous director, right, in Hollywood, right?
Did he die?
What's that?
Is he dead?
He's not dead, but he got Me Too, and he's trying to make his comeback, all right? So he got dead in Hollywood temporarily, but like most great people who make a comeback, I'm sure, right? So Brett tells a story about how when he was in film school, he sent out 100 letters along with his reel to the top 100 producers in Hollywood and directors. And he got back 100 rejections, and that was okay. They said not interested, but that's not interested today. They buy what he's selling. They're in his market. Now he could say, oh, I'm the guy that sent you that reel. Remember, that's a very different thing than when you're telemarketing or cold calling and selling a particular product that someone just doesn't want your product.
Yeah.
And Grant's answer was, oh, then sell something else.
Not to mention, earlier you mentioned, because this happened to me. I tried to close. I'm pretty sure it was Big O Tires. It might have been Pep Boys. Anyway, this is early on when Lightspeed just started. Dude, I literally would try to fucking convince you that you need to do Lightspeed. And I did convince a lot of people. Took me, for about 4 years to close Grant. Took me about 7 years to close Tony Robbins. Took me fucking 1 day to close you.
I'm the easiest seller in the world.
Well, that's because the best closers are the fucking biggest laydowns. I'm the biggest laydown.
I'm telling you, I'm such a sucker. It's terrible.
But I fucking missed a deal. When I walked in, I did a presentation. The CEO's fucking face turns white, and he said, "Where were you 3 months ago?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Dude, I just wrote a fucking 7-figure check to a company that basically is trying to do what it is you actually do." And dude, our setup fees were like $25,000. This guy wrote a 7-figure getting started check. It was unbelievable. But I lost that fucking deal for one reason. I was trying to convince some other prick for too long.
Who wasn't interested.
Exactly. If I would have known just to get the fuck moving, because it took me a long time to learn what you just said.
Yeah.
I was like, nope. This is better, and I'm going to convince you no matter what it takes.
Yeah.
And guess what? If you're not interested, it's my fault because I didn't say something. No, motherfucker. Sometimes it's smarter just to go. You know what I say now? I'm going to worry about the no's after I'm through all the yeses.
Yeah. Or let me think about it. See, there's a very big
while
difference.
You're thinking about it, I'm going to the next door. Like, you know why? I lost a fucking 7-figure deal because I was talking someone into it.
And remember this, all these rules and strategies, and the thing in the straight line system and the system that you're going to be selling on Lightspeed, I pay a lot of attention to this whole idea of prospecting because there's an equation that's a bit too complicated to explain now, but it's based on some pretty obvious, simple truths that how much time you'll spend with any one individual is based on how many potential individuals are out there in the universe for you to call on, how much you can make off of any one sale, how easy is to get to decision making. So there's a couple elements that come into play. And based on the combination of those 4 or 5 things, you come to a sort of sweet spot, which is what I was trying to say. What's the sweet spot here? How long? It depends on the industry, right? But once you cross over that, as you said, what you're doing, your time is far better spent just going to another door. Next. That's what marketing's all about. You know what I'm saying? And when you get those two things aligned, marketing and sales, It's the basis for a killer business. I don't care what it is. The basis for a killer business, provided you're distributing something of value.
And you can do it profitably.
Exactly. That's the point. Exactly. That's what a business is about.
Yeah, and the reason you call it straight line is because when you developed this, it happened to be with Oakmont or Stratton Oakmont. Was it Oakmont Stratton or Stratton Oakmont?
Stratton Oakmont. The reason I called it the straight line, and it's really interesting because the straight line.
And by the way, do you still have to leave at 2:50?
Yeah, like 2:55. That could be 10 minutes late. It's fine. It's another meeting, but he's a good friend of mine, you know? So, and it's a CBD meeting I told you about, right? So anyway, so we call it the straight line because I had this really weird thing going on at Stratton. Before I invented Stratton as it was Stratton, which was selling $5 stocks to the richest 1%. That's what we did. We sold $5 stocks, $5 to $10 stocks to the richest Americans out there, business owners, investors who had a lot of money. When they bought something, they didn't invest $50 or $5,000. They invest $1 million in it. They were big players, right? And the idea was that I tested this idea myself, along with my junior partner, Danny, and the results that we got was so phenomenal that I decided to reinvent my firm. At the time, we were selling penny stocks to average moms and pops. Those are 10-cent stocks to poor people. So I was getting this incredible result. Like extraordinary. So one trade in my new system with Danny and I could be $1 million trade with a $300,000 commission. One sale. In the
How many of those a week?
30 a day.
Just cleaning up.
Like you couldn't imagine, Brad. It's like printing.
Dude, that's what I want to get into. Only because if I were listening to this interview, I'd be like, "Fuck the straight line bullshit." I want to talk about the Lambos and the asses.
I'll tell you that. I'll answer this quickly, and I'll tell you about that because that what paved the way for all that was the straight line. Because what happened is that when I hit on this system of selling $5 stocks to the richest 1%, we had the ability to make hundreds of millions of dollars a year easily. It was like taking candy from a baby. It was simple, right? And I had these 12 kids working for me that I, kid around, say they had the average IQ of Forrest Gump on 3 hits of acid. They weren't sharp. These were kids that had not
Was one of them Guletta?
Guletta was one of them. Oh, yeah, he was one. And Guletta's now you see Guletta as like he can close, but he was, basically a walking idiot back then with a fucking terrible drinking problem, which he probably still has. Anyway, separate issue.
All of them New York.
All New York, all from disempowered backgrounds. These were kids that were never told by their parents.
So the bad news bears.
It was the bad news bears. They were never told by their parents they were capable of greatness. Any greatness they had naturally in them beaten out of them. So when I tried to teach them how to close rich people, they couldn't do it. So I'm doing it. Danny's doing it. We're getting this incredible. I'm closing 50% of the people I speak to. Danny's closing a third. Yet when I have my 12 kids, they're closing 0. Same pitch, same stock, same system. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? How could we're doing the same activity and getting these diametrically opposed results? And that was the time when I went all over the country and looked at everyone else's sales training systems, because I was teaching a system that didn't have a name back then, and it was really good, I thought, but it wasn't good enough for that. And then I had this terrible awakening when I went around the country. I'm like, shit, my shit's better than their stuff, and my stuff's not working. I tried all the Hopkins, all this stuff, no disrespect. I tried all that stuff early on. None of it worked. So I was stuck. Went back to my firm after this trip to L.A. where I went to this big seminar of all the salespeople, right? And I was out of time. The guys were going to quit because they couldn't close rich people. And it was in that evening that I basically invented the straight line. And the thesis basically was, I looked at these guys and just to give you the short story here, it's like, don't you guys get it? Every sale's the same. And they're like, what? I'm like, every sale's the same. And this idea just popped into my head. I'm like, watch. It's a straight line. And I drew this line, this long, thin line across the center of the whiteboard, and I put a big, thick X on either end. And basically what it was this. In my mind, selling was so simple as a natural-born closer that I had this certain predictable way. It was so simple to me that I was taking immediate control of the conversation and then lining up these certain elements, doing it the same way every single time because I was in control. And to me, it was all happening in this very orderly fashion. Yet if you ask the average person who's not a natural-born closer, and even if you ask natural-born closers who haven't thought it through, you say, what do you do when you sell? They're like, I convince people. But what are you really doing, though? Like people, I don't know, like what are you really doing? Well, what's a straight line represented? It was a context for people to say, imagine this is what's happening. This is the beginning. This is the end. And as you're talking, every word you say, everything you do, every document you might hand them, this is before the internet in the beginning, right? You know, what you're doing is you're looking to line up these core elements, moving them down the line from a place of uncertainty to absolute certainty. And at the end of the day, when you close someone, it's because you've made them really, really certain about a few different things. Mm-hmm. Now, for me, that was happening automatically. They couldn't do it. For some reason, when I drew it on a line, it opened up this whole way of thinking about its goal-oriented communication, meaning it's not just a random conversation. There's an outcome in mind.
Even though it sounds like it.
It sounds like it, but what's happening is it started with this idea that I realized what it was. My kids were just that. They were kids. They weren't that educated. They would get on the phone with the business owner. He'd hear them for 2 seconds, say, novice. I get on the phone, hey, Mr. Jones, and I had a certain way of talking and sounding.
Confidently.
Certain way, whatever it was, the words, the tonality, that within 4 seconds, I was hitting these buttons, and I'm sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, expert in my field. And what that did, when someone perceives you as being an expert, what do? They defer to you. They allow you to guide them through a conversation. We've been conditioned to essentially defer to experts. When we were sick as kids, we went to a doctor. They're experts. We ask their questions. If you think you're being interviewed by a novice, you'll fuck with them. So when I position myself just as an expert, I could then run the same strategy every time. So that straight line represented this idea from which everything else flowed. And that next morning, because it was a nighttime meeting I gave, next morning they came back, and these kids who formerly couldn't close a fucking door went on an account opening spree that's now the subject of the biggest movie of all time. It was all because of the straight line. Then came all the Ferraris and Lamborghinis and insanity because there's other things involved as well. The straight line was so powerful that I could take these kids and turn them into $1 million producers like that. But if their standards were too low, like you said, what does someone really need to be? People look at me and say, shit, you don't even make your first $100 million. Well, guess what? These kids thought if they made $100,000, that's all the money in the world. I had to change that, those beliefs in them. So at the same time I was teaching them about, how do you close? I was saying, guys, if you don't make $300,000, $400,000 your first year, you're fucking suspect. Second year, you better make $750,000 or you're considered weak and worthless. Year 3, $2 million are a complete fucking laughing stock.
Yeah, but that's because it was possible.
It was possible.
And people were doing it.
Because of the straight line made it possible, and the industry that it was in allowed them to make an extraordinary amount of money. So and this is true, it's a good point you're making. Every industry has its own level of money you can make. Like for instance, Wall Street, people are overpaid. You take that same straight line system, and you're probably not going to make $8 million a year. You'll make $4 million in something else. But what you will be is the top in your industry. That's the point. It will turn you into the most effective closer in your industry. How much you make is depending on what industry. Some industries pay more than others.
Yeah, so pick a different industry. But here's
real estate, a lot of money. You can make. I have a friend of mine now. He's using the straight line, the biggest commercial real estate broker or agent in the country.
How much would you charge a company if they were listening to come in and kind of do a consulting gig? Big money?
So I have different ways that I deal with companies, right? My time, when I come in, I would never say expensive, but I charge a lot because I can get a lot, right? And I get at least $100,000 a day when I go to see a company, right? And that could be $100,000 for an hour.
Which limits your possible prospects.
Of course, right. So what I did, and by the way, and actually credit you for some of this, by the way, because you actually approached me a few years back and you said, dude, you just took what you did and made it into a real updated interactive system, right? Then, you would be able to go to all these companies and deliver that same process for pennies on that $100,000 and give them probably even more value, which is true because they get to watch it again and again. So now I'm able. Yeah. So now what I do is typically I have for instance, some companies, the bigger ones, they will buy the system and I charge a license fee for each employee. It's ridiculously affordable. It's like I was at a meeting with a bunch of logistics companies this weekend. And they were like, dude, your stuff is like, we would have paid more. But that's okay because it's not about that. It's about how many people. I want more people and I want to stay on forever. It's a long-term play for me, right? So the idea is some companies will hire me to come down for a day and I'll discount my rate because they go in the system as well for the long term. They might have 1,000 employees. They'll buy 1,000 licenses. Some big customers out there, right? And then many people, those smaller companies, will say, I want to start with 10 licenses, see how it goes. And inevitably, they'll always add on more once they get the first 10. Some people start with 20 or 30.
As soon as their numbers triple,
of course.
Like, shit, everybody needs to go through this.
Best thing ever is I was at this Super Bowl party, and one of the people, a woman that was there, she was on the system with her company. And she's walking around to all the other owners saying, our sales have doubled in the first 60 days. If you don't do this, that's what you want with a freaking testimonial, right? So the system really does work. And it's also fun because I teach it myself. It's me on video and I make it really fun. I eliminated all the cursings. I know for corporate America, you can't curse, right? So I took out all the cursing out of it, but it's still fun as hell. It's vibrant. It has people, and I took your lead with interactivity, make sure it was interactive. And I really believe that any company that is, and if it's not mine, just do something. If you're not using some sales, I don't get it. How you can leave this up to chance. It's like the one part of your business that you can intervene on and track the progress so easily. Like, it's like one of those, it's not like a soft thing. It's like you use the system and you'll see a result within a week. I mean, it's like I've had companies that have had 25, 30% pops in the first couple of days just because of how you handle the first 4 seconds of a call. So it's very, very quick to work, and the results are long-term, duplicatable. I think it's the greatest system in the world.
The ROI's there. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
So obviously, you guys, if you can find him at Wolf of Wall Street, ST for street, or Jordan Belfort. You guys know who he is. Go look him up. The book I read, you got a new book coming out, don't you?
Well, so I got to write that fucking book.
But you're planning on it.
I'm about to start writing it.
You have 2 books right now?
I have 3 books out.
What are the 3 books?
So the 2 books are like my life story, which is The Wolf of Wall Street and Catching the Wolf of Wall Street. So those 2 were basically...
How did they catch you?
They caught me because I was stupid and I laundered. I smuggled money to Switzerland, and that was how the whole thing unwound.
So again, I wanted to get more into that because to me, we
got some time. Yeah, tell me.
But to me, it's like,
what's the question?
Dude, I want to get
tell me.
That.
I will. You can
because
ask
I
me.
saw the movie. You were throwing. You were basically being a fucking.
Be as dirty and disgusting as you want. I'll answer anything for you.
Well, my question is, like, when you were on the boat and the FBI was up getting ready, sniffing you out, and you were like throwing them. First of all, how true is the movie?
The movie is incredibly true, but there are a couple of scenes that were invented.
Or sensationalized?
Well, for instance, that scene on the boat with the FBI agent.
Where you were throwing money going,
that never happened.
That never happened?
No.
I was going to say, because, dude, like...
He would have shot me. That
FBI shows up.
He's a friend of mine, that guy. I love that guy. He's the best. He's on my podcast, Agent Coleman. In fact, he's my best performing podcast I ever had was Agent... Better than Grant Cardone was Agent Coleman.
Well, dude, it makes sense.
And he was great. He was great.
So you had to go to prison?
I did.
How long?
22 months.
Was it a fucking pussy prison or a real prison?
Pussy prison.
So you walked in.
I wasn't getting butt fucked at night. Let's say I didn't have to like.
Was it FCI low or something?
It was minimum.
So it was camp.
Camp.
So you walked in. Everybody knew who you were.
Yes, and my bunkmate. So it's an interesting story. So when I got in there, they put me with the other celebrity, which was Tommy Chong. So Tommy was there.
Did he get good weed in there?
No, but but the people did smuggle weed in there, right? It was crazy. But Tommy was there for selling bongs on the internet. Not pot, bongs.
Water pipes
on the internet, all right?
Unbelievable.
And I was like, and he got a year and a day. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, this guy got a year and a day. On that basis, I should get like 10,000 years for what I did. I'm like, it was like, here's the thing. I knew I was guilty, right? I broke the law. I was like the only guilty man in Shawshank.
What were you guilty of?
Money laundering. I smuggled money to Switzerland.
Because a lot of people, if I'll say, oh, Jordan Belfort, and they'll be like, yeah, he fucked up. He fucked all those people out of money. And I'm like, didn't you just like sell them stock that may or may not have won? Because I'll bet you sold stock that did go up, didn't you?
Yes. Stocks went up, stocks went down, and I absolutely, positively rigged the game against them. like everyone else on Wall Street, okay? Now, I'm not saying it's still doing it. I didn't bankrupt Iceland or Greece. That doesn't make what I did right, and I deserve to go to jail. Yeah. Fine. I paid my debt. There are no more investors who are owed money. In fact, and I still do pay money, and that money goes into a fund that the government keeps. It doesn't get this. There's no more investors. The investors, there were none. They were paid back, and then whoever. I think there were others that just didn't. They were rich.
So the money laundering is what got you in the soup.
The money laundering is what got me in trouble. When I got caught, I then pled guilty to anything I ever did because that's the way you do. Because and then I got an extra 4 months because I was cooperating. All right, but I refused to rat my friend out, and I got caught. So I said, yeah, I'll cooperate to get a reduced sentence. And I was giving him information, general stuff. And they said, oh, you need to wear a wire and rat your best friend out. I was like, oh, fuck, And I couldn't say no. Because if you say no, they'll throw you in jail, right? So I wore the wire, and then I wrote a note, had a note in my hand saying, don't incriminate yourself. And I passed the note to my friend during the meeting because I didn't want to get my friend in trouble. And I thought that was a really stand-up thing to do. I thought I was being a real solid citizen for that. 3 months later, the FBI comes.
It's against you.
The FBI comes knocking on my door. You're under arrest. I'm like, what? And they have the note. He got in trouble and turned me in for fucking giving him a note. It was probably the most crushing blow to me when I lost all faith in humanity. But I felt good about that. I mean, listen, and thankfully because of Agent Coleman. Because they could have really fucked me good. They could have sentenced me to 20 years for that. But Coleman understood that, it was a moment of conscience. And they didn't break my agreement. But, yeah, I did an extra 4 or 5 months. I would have done 18 months without that.
Okay, so but when you went in there, didn't they strip you of everything? Like, you had all that dough, you had all that loot. Didn't they freeze all your accounts and make you flat fucking broke again?
No.
Or did you stash some loot away?
No. That's not. They were actually very fair. They left me with $500,000. Okay, and which would seem like a lot of money to a normal person. That was gone in like 90 days because how I used to live. It was just instantly evaporated. And I went through some really tough financial times, but not because of the government. They left me with enough money to live. They let my kids live in the big house. They were very fair to me. I have no qualms with that.
But your lifestyle was so extravagant, you couldn't.
Exactly. I couldn't. I was trying to downsize, but that doesn't happen overnight. And also the habits I was in. I had lost concept of money. So I went basically broke about a year or two after that, and then I started making a ton of money again in the mortgage industry. Before I even went to jail, I had a mortgage company. And I built this mortgage company. I'm doing refinances, and the government actually stood up for me. They endorsed me because they knew I was never in trouble before or after this, right? They let me do this, and I made a lot of money. And when I got out of jail, that company so I had this company making a lot of money, and then I went to jail. When I got back out, the company was just shocked because I was not there to run it. And when I was in jail and I was with Tommy Chong, he was the one that convinced me to write a book. And he says, dude, you got to write a book. Your life is so crazy. I was like, really? I didn't think it was that crazy because it was me. And he's like, dude, your life is crazy. So I started writing. And when I got out of jail, I had about 100 pages and I ripped them up. I didn't like them. They were good enough. And I started writing again. And when I had the first 10 pages done, I read them to myself. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, that looks pretty good. I thought they were good. And I sent them to an agent who I knew casually. And he read those and he was like, holy shit. And that was how it started.
Because, dude, what a fucking story.
Yeah, and that was how it started. And then I'll tell you the best story of all. I think the most empowered thing about this whole story that few people know. And I think it really shows the power you have over your own life at any moment. So I sold the rights. I write this book. It becomes a big hit. Leo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are in a bidding war. I sell it to Leo with Martin Scorsese attached. Terry Winters, one of the most brilliant writers out there. He writes the first draft, and it's unfucking real. It's unreal. Marty reads it. Leo reads it. We all love it. The studio loves it. They greenlight the movie. 2 weeks later, the writer's strike hits. Remember the writer's strike, 2007? And everyone has to put their pens down. Terry can't polish it. We lose the window. Marty and Leo go off and do Shutter Island instead. And I'm fucked now. And I was devastated because I thought that was my road back. And now it was gone. So I had this 5-year period of no movie, trying to just build my business the old-fashioned way. I thought I was going to be an author. After about a year, my wife back then, and you met her, right? It's not together anymore. But back then, we made this decision, said, I'm going to go into speaking. And I started speaking. At first, I wasn't teaching sales. I was just speaking about the inner game of success because I had these negative anchors because the straight line's so powerful. I didn't want to teach it. And then I broke through that and started teaching sales. And once I started teaching sales, I started making massive sums of money again and started doing events around the world. By the time Leo called me 4 years later, he goes, hey, we're ready again. I said, okay, come see me in my house. He comes in. I was living in a mansion on the water, $15 million house. When I met him the first time, I was living in a fucking shack. He's like, what the fuck happened to your life? I'm like, oh, came back. I'm a business person. He goes, show me. I showed him the videos. He's like, holy shit, Marty's going to go crazy. Here's the punchline. The movie The Wolf of Wall Street, as it was written in 2007, ended with me in jail. That was it. That was the ending. When they found out what I had done, they turned it into a comeback story. And now the movie ends with Leo on stage teaching sales. Sell me this pen. I have a cameo. They were an infomercial for the straight line. And it turned into this incredible commercial for my business. Ultimate comeback story that people love and respect because I took what was seemingly the worst thing in the world, the movie getting delayed, and rather than saying die or giving up or sulking, I put my fucking head down and built a business step by step. The lesson for anyone listening here is I don't care what you're going through, whether you're at the bottom of the fucking totem pole of love, of life, of business, of money, it doesn't matter. Here's the deal. You can't wait for someone else to come for you. No one's going to give you the golden ticket. My book agent said those words to me, and I called him and I said, I think I want to be a speaker. It was 2008. He goes, that's great. You have to wait till the movie comes out. Then they'll come for you. In that moment, I was so fucking irate. I was like, fucking mother. I said, I don't know. I'm going to wait for them. I'm going to leave my life up to someone else's chance when they're ready to make my movie. Fuck that. I'll do it myself. Once you realize that you yourself, your self-reliance, you have the ability to change your own life at any moment that you want. If you're willing to do the work. It takes massive hard work, massive intention, and it also takes skill sets. So if you lack the ability to influence and persuade, you fucking learn it. If you don't know how to market, you learn it. If you don't know how to run a business, you fucking learn that too.
Or hire someone that does.
Or hire someone that's going to do it with you as a partner, and you incentivize them to be part of it. But your lot in life, I don't care where you are right now, you're there because that's where you think you are right now. You don't have to be there. That's your choice. I'm not saying it's not going to suck for a while, and I'm not going to say you're not going to have setbacks along the way, because I did, and I still do. Nothing is a straight line to the top, because even the straight line's got boundaries above and below the line, because nothing actually goes in a straight line. The straight line represents the perfect sale. That's a laydown. Yes, 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 yes. In reality, those are few and far between. The straight line allows you to navigate all those other sales and slowly but surely move them forward to get exactly what you want in life. That's the bottom line.
Which is revenue. Man, Jordan, you've been extremely generous with your time. I didn't get into the dirty, but I don't even know if I could think it up because I'm too interested in learning all this fucking good shit right here. The how much cash have you ever had at one time in your possession? Like
green cash.
No. Like I can, in other words, I know people that are worth $300 million, but they don't have $300 million. If you look in their bank account, they got $6 million, but they are technically
no. Yeah. So I say I was probably worth about $200 million in cash at some point in various accounts, and 5-10 times that in paper.
Now, do you think? Because I know there's a famous line in the movie. And I don't know, again, if it was you actually said it or Leo fucking wrote it or somebody wrote it.
I made $49 million, $3 million a week. That
no, the one that said fucking, I've been fucking broke.
That's
and
how
I've been
said
rich,
that was my
and I'll
line.
take fucking rich every time.
The book, The Wolf of Wall.
Because people are out there worried about money. I want them to know what you meant by that.
Let me just tell you this. Money is so fucking easy to make. It is so easy to make money. It's much harder to be happy. Like, money's not the problem in life. Like, making money is freaking easy. It's a simple equation. If you're not making money right now, I'll tell you why. Either A, it's not important enough to you. You don't have it as a priority. It's not a value to you. It's probably part of it. But B, you lack the fucking skills that are required to make money. That's what it is. Because if you possess the skills, if you were a world-class closer, if you knew how to market proficiently, and you understood the rules of business and entrepreneurship, and you had your mindset straight, you couldn't help but be rich. Maybe not every moment you'll have your dips, but you'll always come back and eventually you'll win the game. When I was a kid, even 16 years old, they had a saying about me. My best friend's father, he's going to flush Jordan down the toilet bowl. He'll come up holding a plumber's license.
That's a good one.
It's the ultimate turn lemons into lemonade. It's about, listen, you know you're a fucking closer, Brad, all right? Without having the ability to close, to influence and persuade, you're like going through life with your hands tied behind your back. It's the craziest thing I've seen. And my course just works. It just takes anybody and makes them into a closer. It just does. So to me, shame on you. It's a required course. When you choose to take it, that's your choice. But until you take it, or something else, you have a course too. I mean, there's some course that's going to do it for you, and it better be a good one because there's a lot of shitty ones out there, very few good ones. You're going to be feeling financial pain because you're not going to be able to get what you want because you can't influence and persuade, and that's a required skill to make money. Bottom line.
Or you can't do it with enough volume.
Correct. And also, by the way, forget just sell. How about getting laid? How about getting laid? I've married and slept with the most beautiful women in the world. I'm not fucking George Clooney. I could talk my way into it because I'm closing them. But when I was broke under house arrest, I was banging Miss Soviet Union. The first Miss, I should say, I love you. Sorry to disrespect you like that, but everyone knows it's public. But the point is that I had no money. I was under house arrest, going to jail, which is actually a plus for a Russian girl. Okay, the point
Why is that a plus?
Because they're very proud. My man's in jail. It's a good thing for a Russian. They're strong. He goes to jail. Okay, it's a good thing there. Anyway, they're used to that shit, right? People getting taken away to fucking Siberia, right? The point is I had this unbelievably gorgeous woman because I'm a fucking closer. When a guy shows me, I hate to say this. I won't say it because it's so politically incorrect, but I'll say it anyway. When I see someone and they're just like with someone that just doesn't add up, you can't fucking close. You can't fucking close. You're weak.
Technically, it's true. Or again, in some cases, I know some. This is not the exception because I agree with you, but I do know 2 or 3 of my buddies who are closers, but their choice was based on some magical fucking relationship.
Whoa. No. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, though. So I can't say to them that person's beautiful. I don't just mean beauty in the sake of what I think is beauty.
I meant no. When you see a dude with a homely girl, ugly,
you got to wonder.
I wonder.
You got to wonder. Of course, you got to wonder.
However, and 9 times out of 10, it is exactly what you're saying. They don't close. They have no self-confidence. They don't have they couldn't sell an open. They couldn't close an open face sandwich. They literally accepted the girl. Now, in most cases, there's a few though. There's some magical soulmate type thing
good for them.
where the girl's not necessarily as attractive. But then again, I've seen more hot chicks with ugly dudes than anything else.
Of course,
because
women and men, but I think especially women, they like confidence. Women like a guy that literally will go out there and literally just tell them the way it is. I don't mean like male chauvinist, not even chauvinistic. I treat women. I am like the ultimate guy that puts a woman on a pedestal. I treat women so well. All right, I just do. I really do. Despite what you might think in the movie, okay? I do treat women really, really well, okay? So it's not about being
coke up their butt.
I'm not talking about that. That's just an aside. That's the favor I do for them. The point is, okay, I'm gonna get crucified for this fucking pie. They me too. Anyway,
not
but I'm the fucking wolf.
My listeners will love it.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. Everyone knows it's just a joke.
I like to keep shit real.
I know. But the point I'm making here, which is a sad point in some respect, is that many people, as you said, because they lack the self-confidence, the self-esteem, and they might be the most amazing person in the world. They might be that. They might be an amazingly great, wonderful person with so much to offer. How the fuck does someone else know that? Unless you can get that across. How do they know how great you are?
Yeah.
When you see an ugly guy with a beautiful woman, you know why?
Money?
No, not always. Not always. Sometimes.
Big dick?
Sometimes all those things matter, by the way.
What is it?
All things I hopefully
They're
medically possess.
closers?
But the point is, no, they have been able to get across a certain point that they are worth it.
Yep. True.
That they're worth it. That all, whatever it might be, whatever that is, the way they've communicated their value as a human being, their intrinsic value, their extrinsic value, what's inside of them, whatever they do, they've been able to communicate it where they make them laugh, feel great about themselves, where they just connect on an intellectual level. They are communicating something to that woman that the woman says, you know what, I like that. I see the value here. Yeah, I'll buy it. I'll open myself up to the possibility of falling in love. And then once you meet someone, then the rules do change, because then it's about connection and emotions, getting to place. Not always the most beautiful girl. I've dated some of the most beautiful women. I remember when they were walking up the stairs for bed, I'm like, I'm sleeping. I didn't want to fuck them anymore because the emotional connection wasn't there. So it's not just about a pretty face. At the end of the day, it's about what's in their heart. That's what really matters. But let's just be real here. I'm not going to lie. Of course, I'm fucking about as deep as a puddle when it comes to women. I admit that, all right? But I also care about emotions too, after the fact.
Yeah.
You have to have both.
So, quick question. Would you ever get married again?
Yes.
So, if you find someone that you fall in love, you'll marry again?
Absolutely.
Do you believe in the institution?
Yes.
See,
I just can't get it right.
But
my last one.
Here's the only reason I don't believe in it. Only because it's just a deal that says if this should go sour, we're going to get the state involved to break up. I don't agree with that. Now, a union, meaning a marriage in a religious sense, well, then you don't need to make it legal.
I
with
think
the
you
state.
come better when you feel like you're getting married. You come harder.
You do?
It's a better orgasm. Like, I love you, and I come. But it's just like there's something about that, the ultimate connection and love. It's like it increases the power of the orgasm, I think, and that's very important to me.
So you're not afraid of getting married again?
Fucking no.
Now, right now you have Straight Line. You do consulting for companies. You're out there just freaking tearing it up, having fun. Did I hear a rumor of another movie or some sort of?
So those are great. There's a TV series. All right, I'm working on it right now. The guy who wrote the screenplay adapted my book, Terry Winter, is going to be the showrunner, and I'll do that with him. He's already publicly
announced. Who's going to play you?
Good question. I don't know. I mean,
why don't you play yourself?
I'm too old. I got to be like 23, buddy.
Oh, you're going to do it's going to be back in the day?
Uh-huh.
I was going to say, because, dude, well, you should get a part in it, because I can tell you, the biggest, I still think the biggest thing to generate money is fucking fame.
Yeah, listen, it's made it very easy for me, and I'm thankful for that.
But you were making money without fame.
Yeah, but there's no
fame
doubt
makes it easy.
Like
yes or no?
I could be asleep and make a lot of money
because of now the people know who you are.
Yeah,
so that's my whole thing. It's like, dude, if you can figure out how to get a fucking reality show,
I could easily get a reality show right now. The reason I didn't is, for me, that would have been a step down, because I had this ultimate. The best movie ever
with Leo of all people
and Marty. Come on, so imagine if I did a reality show and it sucked. It's just a step in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
so
you'll be a joke.
No, be a joke, right? So I said, no, I'll never do that, right? But
see, I didn't even think of that. You're right. You're right.
I thought about it long and hard because I was offered many. Trust me, I backed out of one that was publicly announced on AMC. If you Google it, it's still probably there. AMC. I was going to do one. I just backed out. I said it's just too much downside, not enough upside. So, but that being said, a TV series based on the book and the movie, with Terry Winter at the helm and myself giving him the stories. Wow, I just can't see that not just being totally fucking awesome.
Dude, it's going to be awesome. Folks, go out and get Jordan's book. I'd keep going, but he's got to go. He's already been generous with his time. Thank you for coming by. Appreciate it, as always.
You got it, pal.
And, folks, if you guys want to follow him, he ain't hard to find, man. Open up Google, type in Wolf of Wall Street or Jordan Belfort. Follow his ass. By the way, we will have his course on Lightspeed VT.
Hell yeah.
And you can also go to jordanbelfort.com and get it direct. You don't have to wait. He's got it. It's out. It's all over businesses. Folks, if you guys own a business, you're interested in teaching your folks, hit him up. Just make sure he knows it came from the Bomb Squad.
100%.
Until then, folks, keep it real.
Good deal. Hey.